All right, good night, and welcome back to our training. We are going to be kicking this one off. We have big one today. So we will be doing, as you guys know, we have proper diet. That's where we are tonight. So get everything ready, get your pen, your paper, all that you need to write and get everything ready so that we can jump into this thing in full gear. All right. Now, just give me a 1 minute chat if you guys are hearing me loud and clear, so I can know how to flex accordingly, just to make sure everything is going good in the volume. So you guys are hearing me good, give me one in chat, and then I will proceed with the rest of the training. All right. So I'll just wait a minute for those ones to come in, just to make sure that we are getting the correct volume, and then we'll go from there. I'm also just going to just check the YouTube feed just to make sure that that is there as well, and then we'll jump right into the training. Okay. So it is there. It is there. We are live. We are ready to go. And it's time. Oh, there's some feedback from your end. Okay, Shelly, let me do a quick check here. And let me see. Let me just switch this mic over.
All right, so let me just do a quick check. 1 2 1 2 1 2. Let me know how you guys will hear me. If this is better, if it is worse, let me know so I can make the necessary adjustments. So quick mic check. 1 2 1 2, and you guys let me know how you are hearing me, and we will continue to go from there. So there we go. 1 2 1 2 1 2. All right. Is the feedback still there, or are you guys hearing me clearly now? So let me know, and then we'll kick it off. All right, let me just wait for this. Better? Okay, sweet. Awesome. Okay, cool. All right, so welcome to our medical missionary crash course. We will be kicking off this training. I am your host, Coach Jason, and we have been at this thing for the last few weeks, or 2 weeks. What was it? 2 weeks, 1 week, sometime there. So we're going to continue tonight, and we're going to move right into the presentation, which I have out here for us. So let's go ahead. And you know we have to do a recap, because by the end of this thing, there are some things that we are going to learn by heart. Okay? There are some things that we are going to learn by heart. So get ready for that. Now let's bring up our little slideshow here just to make the thing look nice. Right? So you have some visuals. You know, those visuals tend to hit the brain in a different way than the audio. So just want to make sure that we have everything out here, so that when we start blasting off, you guys are pretty much good to go. You guys are seeing my screen. Right, you are. Everything is set. We are going to take this thing off. Now let's start with a word of prayer. Thank you, Father Lord, for the opportunity where we can come out here and teach this medical missionary crash course. Most importantly, Lord, we ask that you help us to retain the information and practice them in our lives, so that when we go out there, we can share this information with those who are in need, those who are sick, those who are plagued by disease, and we can use your laws of health to help and restore their health. This we pray in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. So we have quite a turnout here tonight. Now let's go through this thing. Our memory text is from Exodus 15:26. Exodus 15:26. And it says, "And the Lord said, if thou wilt diligently hearken to the voice of the Lord thy God, and will do that which is right in his sight, and will give ear to his commandments, and keep all his statutes, I will put none of these diseases upon thee, which I have brought upon the Egyptians, for I am the Lord that healeth thee." So, as we've been going through this text for the last few weeks, we realize that the Lord promises that we will be disease free as long as we give ear to his commandments. And we know what these commandments are. We're going to look at them as we come through here. Now, also, it says that the causeless shall not come. That's Proverbs 26, verse 2, part B. Right? And then now comes our power statement. Disease never comes without a cause. Disease never comes without a cause. Now, what is disease? And I want everybody on this chat, by now you would learn it. So I want to repeat after me after the count of 3, 2, 3, say it out loud. Disease is an effort of nature to free the system from conditions that result from the violation of the laws of health. That's taken from Ministry of Healing, page 127. And we learn that disease do not just happen miraculously. Disease go through a certain sequence. And if these sequences are not lined up, then you cannot have disease. With that being said, if this sequence is broken, you can reverse the disease that has been formed, right? So there's no such thing as an incurable disease. As long as you break the sequence, you will have that cure. So we see here that something was broken, and that something is the laws of health. Now we have to familiarize ourselves, and that's what we've been doing for the last few weeks with the laws of health. And repeat after me. Let's go through them one by one. It is pure air, sunlight, abstemiousness or temperance, rest, exercise, proper diet, which we'll be looking at tonight, the use of water, and trust in divine power. Trust in divine power. These are the laws of health, right? And these are also the true remedies. Now, this chart, I want you to stick it in your mind, because come next week, you are going to be looking at each disease, and also you are going to be looking at the chain of events that got there. So what this will do, you have already become familiarized with the laws of health. And now I am going to equip you with the tools needed to ensure that you can, when you leave this training, go out there and be able to work with different diseases, right? Be able to work with different diseases. So keep this in your mind. We're going to be using it. Now, we treat from 4 sources, right? Maybe you would have said 3 in the past, but there was one more that needed to be added. The first one is the Bible, of course. We believe that we come from God, we were created by God. And so when we are in doubt, just like with your vehicle, you consult the manual. So for us, we consult the Bible. What does the Bible stand for? Basic instructions before leaving earth, right? That's the Bible. That's what the Bible stands for. So these are our basic instructions before leaving earth. Now, the second one we look at is inspiration, and that's what we use, the spirit of prophecy, right? Now, for those of you who are familiar, we use the writings, we believe in the writings of Sister Ellen G. White, so we use that to cross-reference. Now, what you would notice, all of these must line up. So one can say something and it is not in the other 2, right? And because if that is the case, then it cannot be used in this training. So everything I have here, they must line up with the other one. The third one is good science. So science that agrees with the principles taught in the Bible, the principles taught by inspiration, we consider that good science and we use that. And then the fourth one, very important, experience, right? Because when you put these things into practice, and you will see it in your everyday life and those that you come in contact with, when you put this into practice and you start to use it, you will see persons getting results. And now you have that in your experience. So we have to go back to the basic instructions before leaving earth. Let's go back to the Bible. Now, right in the early chapter 1, right? This was in creation story. So in creation story, we need to find out what was it that was given to man when he was created, fresh off the press, straight out of the manufacturer's lot. What was the fuel? What was the requirements for food? And you will find that in Genesis 1:29. If you have your Bible, go ahead there with me. Genesis 1:29. It says, and God said, and who said? God, right. Behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed. Pay attention to that word. In fact, get your pen, get your paper, write that down. Herb bearing seed. So that's one thing we got to get in our food. Herb bearing seed. We're going to dissect this thing. We're going to see what that is all about. Which is upon the face of all the earth. Okay. And every tree in which is now you're going to write this one down, fruit of the tree yielding seed. So you have in your notes, herb bearing seed. We need to understand what that is. Then we need to understand what is the fruit of a tree yielding seed. Because to you, continues, it shall be for meat. And the word meat here means food, nourishment, right? So it's looking at nourishment. It's not looking at flesh. Okay? So now that we have that set up, we realize that from the beginning, we were given herb bearing seed, and fruit of a tree yielding seed. Now, we're going to learn some stuff tonight, so you need to pay attention. You need to get some notes, pay attention, and take snapshots if you need to. All right? Now, what is herb bearing seed? Now, let's dissect this thing. The easiest way to understand this, right, is to put the seed or read it backwards. Herb bearing seed is seeds that bear herbs. Okay? That's the easiest way to understand it. Now, a herb bearing seed is a seed that when you plant it in the ground, it yields a herb or it yields a tree. Example, quinoa, peas, beans, wheat, and the different grains like amaranth, and what else is there? Right, those different indigenous grains, these are herb bearing seed. So from these seeds, you can get a plant, right? These are the herb bearing seed. Now, it goes a step further, and then it says the fruit of a tree yielding seed. So these are the fruits that have seeds inside of them. Now, you can see a mass contrast in the difference here because the herb-bearing seed, most of them do not necessarily have a fruit with a seed. So the herb-bearing seed, these are the grains. These will be some of our nuts. And then the fruit of a tree yielding seeds, these will be primarily our fruits. So like our apple, banana, mangoes, cherries, papaya, and sorry, the nuts will be in that correct in that category as well. And the nuts, right? So when you open these up, you take a banana, you cut it, you're gonna see those little black spots in the middle, especially with our indigenous banana. That is the seed of the banana. An apple, whether it is a golden apple, pomsite as we say in some parts of the world, or it is an English apple, once you bite it open, you are going to see the seed in there, right? And last but not least, the cherries, when you open them up, you will see the seeds in there, right? You will see the seeds in there. So all these are examples of fruit of a tree yielding seed, right? Now, let me pause this thing a little bit. Do you guys understand the difference between the herb-bearing seed and the fruit of a tree yielding seed? Now, if you do understand, because I want to make this is a classroom, this is a master class, we're going to pause, we're going to answer the question, we're going to clear it up to make sure that you understand it. So do you understand the difference between herb-bearing seed? Like I said, the easiest way to understand is a seed that bears herbs. So if you plant a corn, you will get the herb of a corn or the plant of a corn. Another word for herb is plant, right? If you plant beans, you will get a beanstalk or vines, right? If you plant quinoa by the seed, you will get that wheat, grains, etc. Okay? Right. Okay, so I'm getting positive feedback with that. And now the fruit of a tree yielding seed, these are the fruits in which the seed is in there. So that will be like your apple, your banana, your mangoes, your cherries, and these sort of stuff. So that is clear. And let me just go in the chat to make sure that it's clear. And if you're on YouTube, you guys could also put it in the chat there. And I will get back to answering that. Right, so we understand the difference. So now that this is set, and I'll come back to this slide. I'll come back to this slide because we need, okay, great. Thank you, Dr. Doris Charles Frederick. Right, very well. So that is clear. We're going to move to the next step. So this is what we ate. Now, we ate that as human beings. What did the animals eat? Now, go at verse down. So Genesis 1:30. It's important for us to understand what the animals eat or ate, past tense. It says, to every beast of the earth, and to every bird of the air, and to everything that creeps on the earth, and everything that has the breath of life, I have given every green plant for food. Right. So lions ate grass, tigers ate grass, lambs ate grass, dinosaurs ate grass, everything ate grass. The underwater animals, they also ate grass because they will come in the category of everything that has the breath of life. Okay? So that is what the animals ate. Now we're setting this thing up, right? We're setting this thing up nice and sweet. Okay? Now, at this point in creation, was sin in the world? Yes or no? No. Okay. Agree. So before sin, we ate every herb bearing seed and the fruit of a tree yielding seed. Now the question will come out, where do we get our protein from? Where do we get these things from? And we're going to jump into that. We're going to come back to that because that is one of the biggest questions we normally get. The animals, they ate the herb or every green plant for food. Okay, excellent. Heretofore, there was no sin. Now, after sin entered the earth, there was an addition. What did I say? An addition to the diet. Now, what was that addition? What is the wages of sin? The wages of sin is death. So, before sin, man lived eternally or was designed to live eternally. After sin, man started to die. So after sin, there was an addition given to the diet. In Genesis 3:18, now, if you look at the chronological order, Genesis 3 will come after sin entered the garden. The Lord said, and this was when he was pronouncing the curse, right? Thorns also and thistles shall it bring forth, and thou shalt eat the herb of the field. In the sweat of thy face thou shalt eat bread. So let's back this thing up. Originally, human beings were eating herb-bearing seed, fruit of a tree yielding seed. Animals was eating every green plant for food. So the herb of the field, they were eating that. After sin entered, man now was given permission to eat herb of the field. So if you notice here, and it's important for us to dissect this thing because before we go on, we have to understand this. In the herb-bearing seed, was there lettuce, cabbage, pak choy, broccoli, cauliflower? No, there was not. There was just the grains, the nuts, and the fruits. But who ate the pak choy, lettuce, cabbage, cauliflower? The animals did. After sin entered, human beings, till you're going to learn some stuff tonight, human beings were given permission to eat the pak choy, the cabbage, the lettuce, the cauliflower, the broccoli. Why? Now, if you understand herbs, if you understand vegetables, in fact, it is in the Bible. I really can't remember the text right now. Actually, yes, I have it. Why was the herb given after sin? Here it is. Psalms 104:14. He causeth the grass to grow for the cattle, and the herb for the what? Service of man, that he may bring forth fruit out of the earth. So herbs were given, or greens were given, for protecting men or mankind from the effects of sin. Now, you would have heard this word before. If you heard this word before, give me a 2 in the chat. Have you ever heard the word antioxidants or antioxidants? You heard that before, right? You heard phytonutrients. These are words you heard before. Now, let's go with antioxidants. Antioxidants, let's understand oxidation. So you bite an English apple, great example. You bite an English apple, the American apple, the red apple, and you leave it outside for a short period of time. What happens to the apple? What color is inside? It is brown. Originally, it was nice and white. After a few minutes outside, it becomes brown. That is the effects of oxidation, right? That is what they call oxidation, right? So if that is oxidation, the cells, if the apple is starting to die and starting to change brown, then antioxidation means it will prevent that from happening. So herbs, greens, vegetables, these have antioxidants, which means when you eat them, it will increase the lifespan of you because it will increase the lifespan of your cells, which you are made up of cells, so it will help you to live longer. Does that make sense? If the thing makes sense, let me say, Dr. Luke, just let me know in the chat the thing make all the sense in the world. Okay? So if it makes sense, put in the chat, it makes all the sense in the world. Right. So we're building. Now we're understanding how the thing's set up. We have a sequence. We have a setup. Right. Merle, thank you very much. Making all the sense in the world. Right. So we're going to build this thing now. Now, that being said, as we said, these are the herbs of the field: lettuce, broccoli, cauliflower, ground provision, callaloo. All these are the herbs of the field. So now that we have that set up, let us cross-reference the information. Counsels and diets, it says grains, fruits, nuts, and vegetables constitute the diet chosen for us by our Creator. Okay, we're building this thing. Counsels and Diets, the same book, says in grains, fruits, vegetables, and nuts are to be found what? What is this? Some of? Or is that all the food elements that we need? Not some of it, but all. So where do we get our protein from? Where do we get our carbohydrates? Where do we get our microminerals? Where do we get our micronutrients? Where do we get our phytonutrients? Where do we get our antioxidants? In grains, in fruits, in vegetables, in nuts are to be found all the food elements that we need. So the question must be asked. The question must be asked. Veronica, thank you. The question must be asked. When was meat introduced into the diet? Number one. And do we need meat to sustain life? Number two. So let us look at the setup. The story of Noah. We're going to go right there. So we're building this thing up now. We started from Genesis 1, reaching Genesis 3. We're building this thing up. In the story of Noah, the animals went into the ark. Now, when you look at the pictures, you see all the animals going in 2 by 2 by 2. But if you read the Bible, and I don't have this text on the screen, but my Bible is right there. So I will have Mommy look for that story for me. Mommy is my assistant right here. If you read the story of the Bible, the animals went into 2 categories. Now pay attention to this because this is very important. Remember, we're looking at proper diet. That is it, the topic for tonight. And I'm going to take my time with this one. I ain't speeding this one up at all. So we need to do a next part for tomorrow. If we can finish by 8:30, I'm happy with that. Okay? So according to the Bible, it is in Genesis. I'll let Mommy find the story there for me so I could give you the cross-reference text because I want to give you from the manual. Not Coach Jason say. I'm giving you straight from the manual. Excellent. Genesis 7. So they could pick up the story in Genesis 7. Now let me give you some reference text because I do not have it on the screen. So let me give you some reference text. So when you go home, when you finish here, you go in and write these texts down and you go and cross-check the information like the Burens, right, to make sure that what I am saying is true. Excellent. So your first text you're going to make a note of is Genesis chapter 7 and verse 2. Genesis chapter 7 and verse 2. Okay, make a note of that. It says, of every clean beast, thou shalt take to thee by sevens, the male and his female. And of the beasts that are not clean, by 2, the male and his female. So we saw that there are 2 categories of animals laid out here. There is the clean, those went in by sevens. And there is the unclean, those went in by 2s. Now I'm going to ask you a question, and I want you to answer me. When the flood happened, when Noah was on the scene, was there Jews? Okay, so if there was no Jews, then was there kosher? Was there clean meats and unclean meats? I'm just putting that out there. Was there clean meats? So there was no Jew. There was no Jewish nation. There was no nation of Israel. There was no book of laws. But we see here that clean and unclean meats is mentioned. So it tells me that there are certain foods in the animal kingdom that were unclean before there was a religious nation called Israel. I'll just let that stick with you. So if the Creator put that there all in the game, it means that Pork is not a non-Adventist food or non-Jewish food. It means that they've been there long before Adventists came on the scene and before Jews came on the scene. He had clean and unclean, right? I'm just gonna put that out there. All right, so we're building this thing. So we see that happened, right? We see that happened. And then the next thing that happened, and I want you to pay attention to this. Well, before we go there, why do you think the Lord put in the clean meats or the meats that could be eaten by 7? Well, obviously, these are the ones that will be eaten. If you had put them in by 2, once you eat one, that race will, or that animal will not be able to procreate, that animal will not be able to multiply. The unclean ones, they only went in by 2, so they can multiply. The clean ones, they went in by 7. So the 2, the male and the female, remains in the multiplication, and they have 5 of each unclean animal, for each clean animal to use as food where needs be. Now, why would the Lord do that? Why would the Lord give them meat to eat? What was coming upon the earth? A flood. When a flood comes upon the earth, what happens? It wipes out everything, good, bad, and in between. So all the vegetation, all the herb-bearing seed, all the fruit of the tree yielding seed, all them get wiped out. All the herbs, everything get wiped out. So there would have been no food upon the land after the flood was finished. So this was a provisional or provision diet. This was to be temporary. This was to be used until the vegetation returned. Now, let me just put this out there, right? So the first one that was given to us in Eden was the premium diet. After sin entered and our bodies started dying, you got the protection diet. When the flood came, and these are the P's you got to remember: premium diet, prior to sin; protection diet, because we started dying now, so we need the herbs. After the flood, the Lord gave us a permissive diet that was supposed to last until the vegetation came up. And once the vegetation came up, we now would go back to the original diet. But there is one more diet that has to be put in place, because if, according to the Bible, when we get to heaven, there will be no mourning, there will be no death. So if there will be no death, where would you be able to get chicken and steak from? I just thought I'll put that out there. Right? So you're not going to have no death. So the last P is the preparation diet. Okay? So you are preparing now by going back to this original diet. You are preparing that when you get to heaven, where there will be no meat, that you will be already back on the grains, fruits, nuts, vegetables. All right? So I just thought I'd put a little Bible study out there. Let's get back now to our training. Okay. So now we have the thing set up. Oh, one more thing I have to mention. Before the flood, and let us just validate these points. Again, check the Bible. Before the flood, what sort of years man used to live? 900 and something, Methuselah. Right? You had Noah, you had Jared, you had all them coming down. Let's say the average was about 600 and something. Right? That was the average if we take all them back and forth. After the flood, what kind of years men start living? 120, 100 until they come down to 70, which was 70 years. What was introduced after the flood into the diet? Flesh. As soon as flesh was introduced, and there's a quote for this one, I don't have it on the screen, but remind me to put it out there. Flesh was introduced for 2 reasons. Remember, well, flesh was introduced for 2 reasons. Here are a few reasons. One, it was introduced as a provision for that period when the food was wiped off the earth. And then secondly, it was introduced to shorten the life of man so that sin will not perpetuate. Imagine if men used to live, look at our days. Let's think of some of the most wicked men we ever knew. Let's think Adolf Hitler, let's think Stalin. Imagine Stalin and Adolf Hitler living 900 and something years to carry on that reign of terror. You could just picture in your mind's eye what the world would be like. So to shorten the perpetuation of sin, the Lord allowed human beings to eat meat so that they could shorten their life. Now you have the choice because now you have the information, right? And he would have given them information. Okay? So I just thought I'd put that out there. Now that we have the premise set up, we understand how the food story goes, we can now jump into this thing. And before I share that screen, let us go through this thing with food. Okay, so now we're going to look at food. There are stages of our food. The first thing we need to do before we eat, we enjoy food, we need to get the food. So when we go and get the food, we have the requirements here. We know the food must, our foods that we get must be grains, fruits, nuts, vegetables, because these are the core, right? Stage one. Now we have to keep in mind that we live in a real world, and it may not be always possible for you to get grains, fruits, nuts, and vegetables. So the first thing you do when you go and get your food is that you want to ensure that you get your food or prepare foods, not prepare, get your foods as close to their natural state as possible. What do I mean? Let us use two examples. The first one will be green beans, right? Beans found in like our kidney beans, etc. The next one will be Loma Linda Franks. So I'm going to use two vegetarian examples, right? I'm going to put the bias towards that. Okay? So I'm not knocking on meat tonight. And this is not a presentation to tell you if you eat meat, you're going to die. That's not one of those presentations. I'm giving you facts. So let's go with it. So we have beans, kidney beans, pack of kidney beans, and we have the Loma Linda veggie meat or Big Franks, right? If I go out in nature, and you're going to answer me in the chat because we interacted. If I go out in nature, which of these would I find? The beans or the Loma Linda Big Franks? I'll give you a next addition to that. If I took these two foods and I plant them in the ground, which of these would grow? You're going to put it in the chat. Let me go in the chat because I want an interactive group here. Right. Let's see here. Okay. Right. So unanimously, everybody agrees that the beans will be the one I'll find in nature. The beans is the one that would grow. So it tells me that the bean is an original food. It is a food that is in its natural state. Because it meets the requirement, it's a herb bearing seed. If I plant it in the ground, I will get a beanstalk, provided that the conditions of water, nutrients, soil pH, etc. are correct. It doesn't matter how much manure, how much Miracle Grow, how much water I put in the veggie franks, it's not going to grow. Now, what does that mean for us? It means that foods like the beans that grow, they have life-giving properties. So when you put them in your body, they give your body life-giving properties. It also means, like the veggie meat, are we hitting the veggie meat now? When you put that in your body, it takes away the life-giving properties from your body to break it down and process it. Now, does that mean veggie meats are bad? No. We have to realize that we live in a real world. And there will be times that you have to get different substitution, especially they are perfect if you are transitioning from an animal-based diet to a plant-based diet. It's a great transition food. So how do we fix it? We ensure that we put in life-giving foods around it. So if we have any veggie meat, we have any Big Franks, we will put in our greens, we will put in our grains, we will get in our nuts, so that these will put back in the life-giving energy that will be taken from these Frankenstein foods. Now, let me just put this out there. I would personally prefer to eat an organically raised chicken than eat the vegetarian meats, especially those ones that are highly processed. And if you want to know if they're highly processed, here is step number 2. To understand if your food is a whole food, if it is a food that is found in nature, you can do 2 things. The first one, like I told you, you can see, look at it, see if you'll find it in nature. Now, there are some foods that are not so straightforward. So, for example, pasta or packaged foods. If it is not so straightforward and you can't get whole foods all the time, the next thing you will do is that you will look at the back at the ingredients. What you want to see is as little ingredients as possible. One being ideal. You don't want more than, well, let me not put a number in it, but one will be the ideal. But let's be realistic. Sometimes they will have, for example, if you look at the whole grain pasta, it will have durum wheat, or if it is made from garbanzo, it will have garbanzo powder. It may have some salt. So salt is okay. We can find salt in nature. So let me just clarify that statement. One, if you can't find it in nature straight off the bat, it's a package or processed food, you look at the ingredients. You want to ensure that the ingredients that you see is a small list. And number two, you want to ensure the ingredients are foods that are found in nature. I think that better clarifies it. Because if you go for a package of trail mix and it has cashew, pistachio, pine nuts, hazelnuts, peanuts, that is plenty of ingredients, but all of these ingredients could be found in nature. Make sense? Now, if you think makes sense, let me know in the chat. Say, Coach Jason, it makes sense, so I can continue building. Right? Does that make sense? So that is checkpoint number one with our foods. We have 3 checkpoints. Checkpoint number one, we want to, when we gather the food, make sure we can find the food in nature or we can find its ingredients in nature. I think that would be the easiest way. We can find it in nature or the ingredients, we can find them in nature. If it is not a straightforward one, look at the ingredients. We may have to do a separate lesson on how to read ingredients. I'll put it up as a YouTube video. Okay, if you guys want me to do a separate video, let me know about that. Okay, great. It making sense. Very good. Nerissa, good to have you. Right? So it making sense. Step one. Now, step number two. We have gathered the food and it has met the requirements. Step number two, we have to prepare that food. Okay? We have to prepare that food. Very good. We have to prepare that food. Now, you could take a perfectly good food, prepare it in the wrong way, and mess it up. Now, let me spend some time here. We're going to take that same red beans, right? And I'm going to give you guys 2 options. You're going to choose which one of these is the healthiest option, or which one of these you would want to eat. We're going to take the red beans, we're going to soak it overnight, then we're going to strain it out, and we're going to make a nice bean soup. Add our little herbs and so to it. You know what I mean? Make the thing look nice. Bring it up to a nice bowl of bean soup. You can add a little grung provision or little grung vegetables in there as well. Nice bean soup. The second option, we're going to take that bean, same thing, we're going to boil it. We're going to crush it up. We're going to add our spices into it. Then we're going to make a dough. Put it in the dough, something like our Bicklo's patty, and we're going to deep fry it in some oil, and we're going to have a patty. Now, from those 2 options, we have the same raw ingredient, different preparation method. Which of these will be healthier? This bowl of bean soup or the, I can't use the word beef patty. I'll just say beef patty because we can't use trademarks, right? So we'll say beef patty, like a patty, a deep fried patty. Which of these will be healthier? Put it in the chat. And like when you guys engage in the chat. When you engage in the chat, it makes me know that you don't just have the recording on, you don't just have the, not the recording, you don't have the Zoom call on and you're doing your business. You're actually here with me. Right, it's the soup, obviously. But both of them met the first requirement. Both of them are whole foods. However, by the preparation method, by the what? By the preparation method, we have changed the outcome of the food. Now, when we deep fry it, what that's going to do, you are adding trans fats to it, you are adding fats to it. When these fats come in your body, these are going to cause a bunch of different reactions that will not be leading to a healthy outcome, right? So now that we have that, what preparation methods, Coach Jason, can I use? Simple. You can use most preparation methods. The ones I recommend you stay away from is the frying, deep frying especially, frying, and the stewing like we do it here in the Caribbean. Now I have to specify that because stewing is done in different parts of the world differently. So how we do it here in the Caribbean, we get some oil, we throw it in the pot, then we add some brown sugar, we brown it around, and then we add our foods and we stew it around. So right off the bat, that has a load of oil in it. Now other countries, they use water or different things, so that's why I specify how we do it here in the Caribbean. Okay? So what preparation methods are awesome? Now let me give you some. Baking, boiling, broiling, air frying, steaming, right? Just to put that out there. Now, if you are doing an oven barbecue, that is fine. Occasional barbecue, and I would specify occasional barbecue. Barbecue, okay, yes, we understand. Occasional barbecue. Why? Because the barbecue with the charring of the meat, it could be a cancer cause. It could make the food become a catalyst for cancer. Okay? With the charring. So barbecue occasionally. If you could avoid it and just do the oven barbecue, even better. Okay? So those are some of the preparation methods. And if you think I missed any preparation methods, just put it in the chat. I'll look at it and I'll let you know if it is approved. Now, that is preparation style number 1. Preparation method number 2. Actually, no, let me leave that right here. I want to make this simple. I want to make this so that an 8-year-old could understand the thing. Right? So I'm going to leave that right here. We're taking our time as a crash course. Right. So we have gotten the food. Check place number 1. We are preparing the food in a manner that will complement the food and keep the nutrients intact and not add any bad things. Checkpoint number 2. Now, the last part is what? We already got the food. We already cooked the food. What is the last thing we have to do now? Oh, mommy, give me some more here. Let me give you guys some other options. So there's grilling, baking, steaming, poaching. I didn't even mention that. Sauteing. Now, sauteing could be done. Let me just give you guys some options out here. You could do saute with water. You could do saute with water. If you're sticky, the next best option is the palm spray. You know, the palm spray, the olive oil palm spray, that is really good. Worst case scenario, a little bit of olive oil, virgin olive oil. That's the worst case scenario. So I give you 3 options, and I'm keeping in mind that I'm dealing with real people, not people who have all the ingredients available to them at all times. So I'm giving you 3 options. Water. You could start with water. Now, I'm not a professional cook, but I'm surrounded by people who are, so we'll probably do a demonstration video one of these good days for you. You can do it with the palm spray. These are 0-calorie sprays, or you could do it with a little bit of virgin olive oil. And let's go worst case scenario, virgin coconut oil. Because we live in the Caribbean, coconut oil is more available than olive oil. All right? So those are 4 options they give you. Right? But when you use them oils in the back end, use a small amount. Okay? The oils also have their benefits. Just to put this out there, virgin oil withstands higher temperature. Sorry, virgin olive oil is able to withstand higher temperature better than the others. Okay, so just thought I'll put that out there. We have blanching, dry heat, that will be air frying. Right, so those are some other ways of cooking. Searing as well. All right, so those are some other methods. Thanks for that. Right, so we got to the food. We prepared the food, now we have to eat the food. Agree? We have to eat the food. All right. Now, let me ask you it, and this is the best way I find it works when I'm teaching it. We are going on a trip, right? We are going on a trip. We're going to fly from St. Vincent all the way to New York. And you are in charge of the fueling of the airplane. Your role is to fuel the airplane. You decide when we're going to fuel the airplane. Now, when would you want the plane to take the most amount of fuel? At the start when we leave in St. Vincent, or after we got to New York? Put it in the chat. You're engaging with me. When would you want this plane to take the most amount of fuel? When we leave in St. Vincent or after we get to New York? I'll give you guys 30 seconds to put it in the chat there for me. So you are the fueling manager. You're responsible for fueling this airplane. When do you want this plane to start fueling or take the most fuel? Okay. So we have at the start, we have leaving. Okay, great. Because obviously, it was taken at the start so the plane could make the trip over to New York. Excellent. Fair enough. Makes sense. Make all the sense in the world. Now, that being said, when we wake up, sun comes up, that is the start of the day. Now, let me put in this point here. I'm talking to people who work from daylight to daylight, okay? From sunrise to sundown. So for my shift workers, I have a special segment for you. So your start of the day is upon waking. That is your start of your day. Just like the plane is starting its journey in St. Vincent, you're starting your day when you wake up. That's the start of your day, early morning, whenever you wake up. When you go to sleep in the night, that is the end of your day. That is you get into New York. So using this same setup, when do you think you should put the most amount of fuel or food in your body? Earlier in the day or later on in the day? Let me see in the chat. Let me see in the chat. So you fixing your problem yourself, right? I ain't doing it for you. I'm just giving you information, and you're going to set this thing up for your own self. You're going to customize this thing based on your needs. So go ahead. When you think you should consume the most amount of food? Okay, early. Makes sense. Why? Because you're consuming most amount of food early, you have the day ahead to utilize that energy that you have put in. Make sense? Excellent. Excellent. So we're going to get to how that should look like shortly. And we're also going to get to why it is important. Generally speaking, your body processes carbohydrates really good before 12 p.m., generally speaking. Okay? Now, just like the plane, you want to start it with a lot of fuel. Now, I'm going to keep in mind that not everybody eats breakfast at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock. So your first meal, breakfast or breakfast means when you break your fast, your first meal after waking up. So that could be 7, that could be 10:30. Once it is before 12. Your first meal should be a heaviest meal, right? Your second meal should be a little bit tapered down. And then the meal before bed should be your lightest meal. An easy way to memorize this is eat like a king or queen in the morning, eat like a prince or princess for lunch, and eat like a pauper in dinner or at dinner, right? And it makes sense. Now, let me give you some other parameters. Whenever your first meal is, you want to make sure that you space your meals between each other about 4 to 5 hours. So you see this, you eat breakfast, let's say at 7 o'clock. 5 hours after that will put us at, 12 o'clock? Yes, I think that's correct. Yep, 12 o'clock. 5 hours after that will put us 5 o'clock or later, right? So that is the space in between your food. Why is that important? Well, here is why. Your system or your digestive system or your stomach specifically works on a first in, a last in, first digested system. So what does that mean? If you eat breakfast at 7 o'clock, right? And your body is breaking that down, and then at 10:30 you eat a snack, then that new food will become the preference. So it will stop digesting your breakfast and it will start digesting the snack. And let's say 2 hours after you went and had lunch, it will stop digesting the snack. It already stopped digesting the breakfast and it will start working on the lunch. Now, what does that mean for you? The average body temperature, stomach area, is about 35 to 37, right? It's in the mid to high mid 30s. Now, what is the temperature outside? What is the temperature outside today? We're all in the Caribbean, so this should be interesting. So I think the temperature, the hottest temperature recorded today. In fact, let's research it. You are going to help me now. Get your phones out. What was the temperature today in your country? The hottest temperature recorded today. I'm going to do the same thing on my phone. I like to keep it interactive, right? Hottest temperature today. Let us see what the hottest temperature today was. So I'm in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, by the way. So our hottest temperature today was 20. Well, temperature now is 29. The hottest today was, what you have? You have 28. My hottest I had as 31. 31. No, 30. Sorry, 30. 30 was the highest recorded today, right? Now, if you take some partially digested food and you put it outside today, when it was 30, what would happen to that food after a few hours? What happened to that food? It would start to what? Spoil, right? Okay, that is 30 degrees Celsius. Your stomach is about 35 to 38, give or take. When you have food in your stomach sitting at 35 to 38 degrees Celsius, what do you think is happening to that food in your stomach? The exact same thing. The food is starting to spoil. And when it starts to spoil and it releases these toxins enter your bloodstream, and now you have just slow poisoned yourself, right? Now, if you did that one off, that is bad enough. Imagine if you're eating between meals or you're snacking for the last year, for the last 2 years, for the last 10 years. Imagine the toxic buildup that is in your body right now. Just thought I'll put that out there. So, we recommend leaving some space between your food. And here is why. For that same reason, you don't want the food to be sitting and spoiling. And also, if I were to come to you right now and I say, hey, Joy, I remember Joy Charles, you could come and help me move some bags out of the Jeep. I have some grocery bags in the Jeep. Come and help me bring the grocery bags in the Jeep. No problem. Joy come, she helped me. Now, Joy went back inside. She went back to do what she was doing. And then I came back an hour later. Hey, I said, Joy, listen, I got some bags. You can help me move them? Okay, Joy, a little bit reluctant. She still comes. 3 hours later, I come back. Hey, Joy, this is like 10 o'clock at night now. Joy, could you come and help me move some bricks? I have some bricks to move. And then I come back 2 hours after, 3 hours after. After a while, Joy is going to get annoyed with me. Joy is going to be fatigued. She's going to be tired. Now, that's the exact same thing that happens to your stomach. So you give your stomach food at 7 o'clock, right? The stomach is working on its food, right? You bring in some new food. Now, your stomach have to stop what it's doing and go and deal with this new food. Working, 3 hours later, you're bringing some more food. The stomach have to stop these two things and go and deal with that new food. And that just continues over and over. And that applies to eating something as small as a peanut to eating something as large as a bucket of ice cream or a bucket of vegetables. Food is food. So why we recommend giving that space is, one, to give your stomach enough time to digest and rest. So after it's finished digesting, you have some time to rest. And then secondly, to ensure that you don't get indigestion, right? You don't have your food rotting in your stomach and poison in your body, right? So that is the main reason why I recommend that before. Okay, so we have a question here. And I love this question. I am told that breakfast should only consist of fruits. Is that correct? Now, when you answer questions like these, you have to be careful because I have to keep certain things into account. If this person was on a specific diagnosis, it was diagnosed by a doctor for something, and they put them on a specific plan for a specific reason, then I cannot say this is incorrect. So for the person that asks this question, I'm going to use the example of a normal, healthy individual who does not have any diagnosis, who have not been given a specific diet by a dietitian, right? So for the normal individual, you want to, and let's just jump the gun one time. So I'm going to bring up my food chart. So this is what breakfast should look like. Okay? This is what breakfast should look like. I have a chart up here on the screen. And let me just bring it down. Let me zoom in here a little bit so you guys could actually see this clearly. Now, this is something you probably want to take a snapshot of because this is what I want to see your plates looking like moving forward. Let me just put that right there and put it right there. Okay. Let me just see how it looks here. So I'm going to answer that question right here. So breakfast and lunch. This is a plate. Half your plate should have either vegetables or your fruits. Vegetables or fruits. Now, Coach Jason, why you say vegetables or fruits? Okay. Great question. I thought you'd never ask. So it is not recommended to consume vegetables and fruits at the same meal. Why? Vegetables tend to break down a lot slower than fruits. So what happens is when you eat both of them at the same meal, the fruits will break down and sit in your stomach at 38 degrees Celsius while it's waiting for the vegetables to break down. Remember what happens when food sits in the stomach and it's not moving along for too long? It starts to rot, just like if you leave it outside. So while it's waiting for the vegetables to break down, that will also happen. And as a result, you could have petrification. It could also cause indigestion. Now, this is an advanced topic, but I'll just put it out there quickly, and I'll have to come back to it and do it in the next lecture. What is the difference between fruits and vegetables? Let me give you guys the easiest definition or the easiest example or the easiest explanation, just like we learned. So fruits are those not herb. Fruits are the fruit of a tree yielding seed. So, and I have to be careful with this one, right? Fruits is anything. I'm gonna take my time when I explain this one. I know it could be confusing. Fruits is any food that has seed inside. That is a fruit. So fruit is the foods that have the seed inside. Now the easiest one, of course, mango, apples, banana, grapes. Those are the easier ones. Here are the more tricky ones. And the reason I say I want to leave this for a more advanced lesson because it could become tricky. Tomato. Does tomato have seeds inside? Yes, tomato is a fruit. Pumpkin. Does pumpkin have seeds inside? Pumpkin is a fruit. Eggplant, or what do they call it in Baigan, in Trinidad, Baigan. Does Baigan have seeds inside? Baigan is considered a fruit, botanically considered a fruit. What is another one? Cucumber. Cucumber has seeds inside. Cucumber is considered a fruit, right? Now, like I said, this is advanced, and this will, right, cucumbers as well, correct, Doc. Cucumbers as well is considered a fruit, right? So these are the fruits. Now, this is a tough one. So I like to bring this in a little bit later, but just because you asked, I just mention it out here. I will definitely have to do a specific training on this one. But right now, I just wanted to eat whole foods. Okay, so those are the ones I mentioned. So the foods that have seeds inside of them, these are considered fruits. The vegetables are parts of a plant. What do I mean? Broccoli, that is the flower of a plant. Pak choy, that is the leaf of a plant. Sweet potato, that is the root of a plant. Onion, that is the root of a plant. Turmeric, that is the root of a plant. Give me an next one, mommy. An next vegetable. Cabbage, that is the leaf of a plant. Broccoli will be the flower of a plant. Right? So the vegetables are parts of a plant. The fruits are the foods that have seeds inside them. Easiest explanation I could give. If you want me to go clearer than that, let me know. I may have to do another lecture for this one. All right? So that being said, now that we have that out of the way, and guys, thanks for asking the questions. Keep asking them. I'll look at the chat from time to time and answer them. Okay? Carrots is the root of a plant. Joy. Right? So carrots is the root of a plant. So the vegetables, parts of a plant, fruits, foods with seeds inside. I think that's the easiest way I could explain it because I keep this 80-year-old friendly. I have to teach this to my children and some nephews I have. So I want to make sure that what I teach you is that something that they can understand as well. And that's why the chart is so colorful. Okay? So that being said, vegetables or fruits at a meal. So what does this look like? Vegetables could be lettuce, cabbage, broccoli. All these could be vegetables. And I had something here marked above the ground vegetables. So these are the ones I mentioned, right? Not necessarily. This was vegetables. This is vegetables. So half your plate, vegetables, or if you're doing fruits, then you're doing fruits. Right? So if you're doing your fruits for breakfast, then for lunch, you can bring in your vegetables. Make sense? Right. A quarter of your plate should be protein. Now, I'm going to be a little bit open-minded here because I know that we are all starting from somewhere. So I'm not telling you, you have to leave here tonight and become a plant-based person. I just list up this food as we learned it. In fruits, what did it say? In fruits, in grains, fruits, vegetables, and nuts are to be found all the food elements that we need. So I just kind of made this list. Fruits, grains, vegetables, and nuts. And I have legumes here as well. So that will be the herb-bearing seed. Okay? So protein would make up a quarter of your plate. And let me bring it back down here. And by the way, ladies and gentle people, I will give you guys a copy of this. Okay, so you can have it for reference. Print it out and stick it up. Repetition is the key of learning. Right? So proteins, that will make up a quarter of your plate. What does protein in the morning look like? Well, we talk about beans. I think we beat that a lot. Now let's go for the whole food side that are non-vegan. It will be things like eggs. It will be fish. It will be chicken. It will be, what else? If you notice, I'm calling whole foods. I'm not calling sausage. Right? I'm not calling burgers, except they are plant-based burgers. I'm not calling this. I'm calling whole food still. Because I'm a big believer in whole foods. Whether plant-based or non-plant-based, whole foods will beat every time. All right, so that is your protein. And then your grains now, this will be things like your oats. It could be quinoa. It could be wheat if you're not wheat intolerant. So that would be whole grain breads. It could be cornmeal porridge. I'm looking at the foods we have here in the Caribbean, right? It could be whole grain cereal. So we do have some whole grain cereal in the grocery that sells. It could be muesli, right? Granola. So these are the grains. So let me just give you guys 3 examples of a breakfast put together using these categories. For this breakfast, I'm going to go with fruit, right? Let me use some indigenous ones. So for my grains, Joy, I'm going to go with a Trinidadian meal. I'm going to use and do we have Trisha on here tonight? I don't know Trisha the recipe for this. Let me see if I have Trisha on here tonight. Let me just take a quick look, right? Let me see. Trisha's on here. Okay, Trisha's not on here. All right. So I'm going to use a whole grain, whatever my whole grain flour is, sourdough roti. For my fruit, I'm going to do some pumpkin, the mashed pumpkin that you guys just do there in pumpkin choker, that's it called, right? I'm going to do some pumpkin. I might even do some tomato choker to go with that. So I have my two fruits there. And my protein, I could use what I use my protein to go with that. Joy, what do you recommend? That would keep in congruence with the culinary location for which I'm trying to explain here. We could probably do some dal. Some dal to go with that. So that'll be my protein. Yeah, could do a dal soup on the side. So that'll be my protein, my vegetables, my fruits, and my grains. And then, of course, for the nuts, we can sprinkle some flaxseed, or we could have a handful of nuts at the end. All right? So that's the Trinidadian version. Or chickpea. Thank you, Veronica. We could do the chickpea as well. Garbanzos, depending on where you are. St. Vincent. Now let's do St. Vincent. We're going to put together St. Vincent breakfast. Green banana. Steamed green banana. Now, what is banana? Fruit or vegetable? Okay, what is green banana? Fruit or vegetable? Question. Let me put this out there. So green banana is a fruit, but what is green banana? Fruit or vegetable? I see nothing in the chat. Let me see that. Let me see that one. When it is ripe, it's a fruit. When it is green, what is it? All right. Once you're fruit, okay, you guys are correct. Once a fruit, always a fruit. Green or ripe, always a fruit. So we have steamed green banana. We have some boiled fish. Boiled fish, that would be our protein. And what would be our grains? We could probably do some corn cuckoo. We could do corn cuckoo. Or we could do some, what else we could use for grains? I'll do the corn cuckoo. So we have corn cuckoo, steamed fish, and some green banana. Fruits, grain, vegetables. The fish will also have some fats in it. So we'll take that from that. Right? If you were going fully plant-based, we could do a soup. We could do a bean soup with some ground provision. That would be our vegetables this time, so we can't use fruits. And that would cover the requirements of what we need. So the banana is a fruit, the corn is a vegetable. So we're not mixed the two of them together. Oh, good point. No, sorry. You are correct. The corn is a grain. The corn is not a vegetable. The corn is a grain. So the corn cuckoo, that will be the grain. That will be the carbohydrates as well. The banana, that is a vegetable. That will be some carbohydrates as well. The protein will come from the steamed fish. And the fish will also have fats inside, omega-3. Right? Make sense? And don't worry, we'll have to do a whole lesson for meal planning. Right? Now for lunch, we could do brown rice or wild rice. Brown rice. We can do some cauliflower or broccoli or a mixture of both, or lettuce or pachoy. And for the protein, we can have our garbanzo beans, chickpea beans, or if you're non-plant-based, that could be something like chicken breast. Right? We start in whole food. Our goal is to ultimately go back to the original diet. But I'm meeting you where you are, and I'm showing the combinations. Now, here's the key thing, right? What did we say herbs were? Herbs were protective in nature. So what I would normally recommend, whenever you eat food, especially if you're non-plant-based, plant-based and non-plant-based, make sure you include some greens in one of those meals for your day. So if it is breakfast and you're doing fruits, you're bringing fruits, those have the antioxidants in them. The bright color fruits like mango, papaya, these have our high antioxidants. If you come into lunch now, you'll use the protective ones like kale, pachoy or bok choy as it's called, lettuce, cabbage, any of those things, those will have the protective elements. Okay? And then the last one now, and I'm going to have to bring it into a close. I didn't realize it was 8:40. I thought it was 8:30 still. Is dinner. So remember, we're eating dinner like a pauper. And just something as I just mentioned here, right? I know this lesson not taking long, so I think we got to break this in two parts. Let me just finish this off. This will be part one, and we'll pick it up again tomorrow. Right? So the nuts. Whenever you're using nuts, you can use any of these. Let me just bring them up here. So this could be things like nuts, seeds, avocados. Any of these will count towards your nuts. And again, I'll do a full lecture on this where we'll actually put together meals. But these are some examples of the nuts that you'll put in. So in that same steamed fish and banana with corn cook, you could put a slice or two of avocado on its side, right? And it could have a judicious amount because, you know, it's the start of the day. Now for dinner, you want to keep dinner simple. Now, this is for the general population. If I have strength training athletes, or if I'm dealing with somebody who is on a high resistance training program, I may tweak this a little bit. But I'm just talking for the average general population. For dinner, you would use a fruit or fruit and grain. Now, what does that look like in real life? Fruit is obvious. That could just be your banana, whatever fruit you want. Grains would be things like granola. So you could have granola. You could have your whole grain cereal. You could have Weetabix. Weetabix, excellent stuff. And you could add some raisins in there. That would be your fruits. You could have a slice of whole grain bread with a locally made fruit spread. So that could be applesauce, or it could also be that steamed pumpkin that we did earlier for breakfast that they do in Trinidad. That could also be that. It could be a sada roti, whole grain sada roti with some melange or baigan or pumpkin. So these are some options there. Okay. Boom, 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 boom. So farine is made from cassava. Cassava is a root, which is a vegetable. So you could use farine earlier in the day, right? Again, this is just the general template. If I need to break it down a little bit, we could break it down a little bit. Okay, so even though farine looks like a grain, it's actually a vegetable, right? All right, now guys, we really have to break it down. I didn't realize I went so late. Sorry about that. I respect you guys' time when you have work tomorrow. So we're gonna have to bring this down to an end. I know there's a lot of information. I didn't expect to get through everything tonight, but so we'll have to do a part 2. So we'll have to do this part 2. Hopefully tomorrow. I may be traveling tomorrow, but I'll let you guys know in advance if we will push the class to Wednesday, which we don't normally do. But again, we just want to finish this thing off. So for now, the next part 2 of this will be tomorrow. We'll continue where we left off, and we will try to finish this off by tomorrow. If you have any questions, you can leave it in the chat. This is also on YouTube, so you can go back and look at it there. And until then, we will continue the session. Have yourselves a great night. Let me just put the YouTube channel up here so you guys could look at the recording and the recordings from last week for those that you missed. It is right there in the chat. You have it available. Just look for FITMA, FITMAW, Mothers and Wives, and you guys will find this and the other recordings there. Again, thank you so much for giving me an extra 13 minutes. I should have finished at 8:30. And we will pick this up again tomorrow. Have yourselves a great night, and God bless.